Okay, and
Yes.
so this parallel timeline, she prays, Jesus appears to her, and then what happens to you then?
In my realm, all of a sudden I see a shift happen. Like I've described before, there was this red lava flow that I saw coming in to this cavernous area, and it was at different points in time. It was burning skin off of my legs, and then my skin would reform because of the eternal nature of the whole tormenting thing. But when she prayed that prayer, it's as if Jesus took that prayer in a scroll, went to the heavenlies, presented it to his Father in court, and then God could do something. I mean, he gave me a really neat vision of what happened, but we probably don't have time for that. So the lava flow ceases, and then I start to see this. I'll try to do it in the picture. I start to see this huge finger start to come into the realm I'm in, and then I notice it's an entirety of a man's hand. I knew it was a man's hand just because it was massive, and it was cracked, creviced. I mean, if you want to use Christianese, lingo, it was definitely Ancient of Days type thing. And it came in from the outside, and as soon as it entered into the realm I was in, it brought this beautiful, brilliant white light. These finely ingrained feathers started to circulate all around me.
Really?
And as he neared me, they encircled all around me.
The feathers.
The shackles fell off.
What fell off? I'm sorry. What fell off?
The shackles fell off that were holding me crucifixion style.
I see.
Excuse me. All the demonic creatures that had been tormenting me and scrapping at my skin and mocking me and condemning me, they just fled. I mean, it was as if war happened, but who's going to war against the hand of God? All of my fear disappeared, all that frigid, freezing, icy sensation I had gone. I knew on the spot that this was a rescue. Okay? I mean, he put his hand right around my waist as if, like in the old King Kong movies, with Faye Dunaway grabbing her off of that thing.
The Empire State Building, or?
Yeah, exactly. And then I hear these three simple words that sounded so profound. It sounded like a clap of thunder, a bolt of lightning, and rushing mighty waters like Niagara Falls, all combined into one, and simply said, "It's not your time." And then I just felt this upward, straight lift up, and that's it. And then my visit in hell was over. Basically, what happens, I got returned back to my body, which was then in the coma, lying in the hospital.
Yeah. When you were just talking, I wondered if perhaps the coldness, too, is that you were dead or dying, and just the fact of the life gone out of you, that coldness of the life gone.
Yeah.
So that's just so fascinating and so intriguing. I also want you to go ahead just a little bit and tell us about your own personal salvation story, because it sounds like it kind of built from there, that your wife had that encounter with the Lord, but that you yourself, you had that encounter, spiritual encounter while you were dead or dying. But so what happened with you after that, as far as your relationship with God?
Well, there was no relationship that I consciously formed with him till years later. I mean, because like we had mentioned, for those couple of years in rehab, the sole focus was on rehab. That's it. Any memories of what had happened with me in hell or to my wife in the hospital, those were not anything we thought about, because there was so much focus on the rehab. I had to learn how to walk, learn how to talk, learn how to eat. I remember going through the alphabet, see if I could get, A to Z.
Because it's not just the physical, you had the mental also.
The cognitive. Yeah. And that was probably the hardest.
Yeah.
I could remember being in therapy, and they would be, they'd ask me to, move my left arm or try to do something with it. And all I could do is stare at it, at my arm, and think, move. I don't know how to, So it was years later that a relationship with the Lord did come about. We ended up relocating to Florida from Michigan because the winters, they're just too tough to deal with.
Shoveling all that snow was just too much.
And my wife was having to do it all.
Right. I understand. I'm from Iowa. It's, challenge.
And I can see why people with joint problems want to go to where the heat is.
Right.
So I felt better in Florida. So we went to Florida. And it was God's plan anyway. We didn't know it, but He knew it already. And we met somebody in the subdivision we moved into. He invited us to their church. And what got us there, because we weren't looking to go to church, what got us there was his son played fiddle.
Oh.
And I love fiddles.
Really?
And he was going to play in an Easter service. So we ended up going to that.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess that's when you could say we kind of like formally said, you know what? There might be something in this kind of stuff.
And you know what's interesting, your wife, because that was kind of my story too. By the way, I play fiddle. Love fiddle, yeah. But I had a similar experience where God touched my life personally, and so I knew He was real. At the time, I was an atheist, but then I started calling myself a Christian just because I believed that Jesus was real. That He was real, but I didn't walk the walk. I didn't want to take the time to read the Word or anything. So I understand what you're saying. It's that space you're in for a while. So
because it is. Christianity, it is. It's all about a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not just up here. It's
no.
Yeah.
No. There's so many different scriptures, and where Jesus says, I don't know you.
Yeah.
That's the single thing that keeps you from going to hell and going to someplace else. Was knowing Him.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, we ran your story on Breaking Christian News about the same time that Rob Bell's controversial book, Love Wins, came out, which is why I found your testimony so timely and also so important. What would you say to someone now who doesn't believe in hell? There's a book out, and it's really good, called Heaven is Real. And about the Burpos and the little boy. Yeah, it's a great book. And yours is just so unique because it's actually what I got out of it. Well, hell is real, And so what would you say to a person today that says, well, I don't believe in hell?
Well, that's always a tough one. I never try to convince somebody. You could rattle off a whole bunch of different scriptures on showing the validity of hell in the Bible, and then they'll have the same amount showing it's not. So I just tell what I know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you could follow it up with, well, you can either believe now and get in a relationship with the Lord, or believe it then when you see it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can have the same argument for heaven.
Oh, sure.
Because and people do. People will say, well, how do you know there's a heaven? And you can quote scripture all you want. Right. And there's people that have experiences going to heaven that other people will just say, well, that was the medication, or that was this. You can explain a lot of things away. Yep. But your experience was your experience. And, like you said, as much as there's maybe something in the Bible that might make someone think, well, there's not a hell, there's just as much that would say that there is. So I like to err on the side of caution. And, hell is... I don't want to say it's a controversial subject because it really, for a Christian, I don't think it should be. If and I trust God. I totally trust God. And at one point in my life, when you lose a loved one and you don't know where they're at,
Right.
it can be very disconcerting. But I learned a long time ago to trust God, and that God is the most loving
Yes.
person I know, and I totally
Yes.
trust Him. And I know that in heaven, if there's someone that's not there that I really loved, I just don't believe that I would even be cognizant of it. It's like that would just be erased. And I just totally
Yeah.
trust God. And at the last, look at you. I
Yeah.
trust that God, even in the last moments, even
Right.
at a point of death, can reach down and really just manifest Himself to someone. So for me, your story was a tremendous story of hope.
Yeah.
A tremendous story of just God's grace and His love, and I just loved your story. And so I think it's important that people hear both sides. They hear about the people that have gone to heaven, but also hear about those who have had the opposite experience.
Right.
So I just really want to thank you, Matthew, for meeting with us again. Like I said, it was such a great story, and I know our readers would like to hear more and see you and hear more from you.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's why we wrote our book, A Day in Hell, Death to Life to Hope. I mean, because the neat thing about, I mean, it's such an honor to have experienced what I've experienced. I mean, I've been asked by folks before, would you change something? Would you change something so this would never have happened to you? I wouldn't. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, hell's not meant for us. That's why Jesus came.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I could go on and on.
You were meant for heaven.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We all are. We're all meant to have
Yes.
We're all meant to have an eternal relationship with our Daddy.
Yes.
That's what His Son's for.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Matthew, thank you again, and God bless. And it was great talking to you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, bye bye.
All right.